Okay, we're back here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some Infera stuff, and hopefully help you understand this a little bit better. So what I want to talk about first, we've talked about the quality of our product a little bit. Let's dig right in, and we'll show you some things we've helped people accomplish. 8-gallon Infera is kind of been our go-to standby program for a number of years. The reason 8-gallon has been the number, the agronomist and the chemists that make product for us and our research over the years, not always is the case. And if 8-gallon doesn't work for you, we're going to tell you. And we're not dumb enough or to think or dumb enough to tell you that dry fertilized doesn't work or that's never an option. But what we have found, 1 gallon of our 318-18, and 318-18 has kind of been our go-to.
It's very
over the years, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the video. But 1 gallon of 318-18 should produce between 20 and 25 bushels of corn. So that 8-gallon mark should put you in that 160 range, upwards toward 200 bushel. And Dad would agree and has said many times, our most limiting factor in West Tennessee and in a lot of regions in corn production is rainfall.
Too much or too little at the right time.
So 8-gallon is kind of our go-to program. We've got some other customers that do higher rates. At higher rates than that, unless you're running some higher CECs in your soil, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So real quick, the way we figure a rate is seed safe fertilizer, our products, your CEC. For every number of CEC, you can put 1 gallon of product.
It's a general rule. That's just a good standard starting place.
A good safe starting place. So in West Tennessee, we deal with soils for the most part that range from 4 to maybe as high as 13, 14 in a few places, but we'll see an average of 8 to 12 for the most part. So for the most part, that 8-gallon range keeps your seed safe. You have to watch with sulfur in Infera. Sulfur can be really risky. Boron can be really risky in Infera. All of our chelated micros we store in bulk. We can add zinc, copper, manganese, magnesium, most any micro secondary. We can add that into your product, and that is seed safe with the exceptions of being boron and sulfur. They are seed safe to a certain extent, and those two you really have to watch pretty close. So we're going to dig right into this a little bit. I'm going to show you this soil sample real quick to the camera. I'm going to give it to Dad. This is a 40-year customer, Weakley County, Tennessee. We have done this soil test over and over and over on multiple farms with multiple customers, helping them understand what they're accomplishing, especially new customers. Sometimes they're still just a little bit, still got that little bit of doubt that something new is working, but what we did was went into this farm. Corn at this point was about 6 inches tall, so it's in that V1, V2 stage. We went and pulled a soil test between the rows. This corn's on 30-inch rows, so we went multiple places across the field, pulled a soil sample 6 inches deep between the rows. Everywhere we pulled a soil sample between the rows, we pulled one in the furrow. This product was seed placed with the Keaton seed firmer with a splitter tube in it. So with 8-gallon, 318-18 had 0.5% sulfur and 1 pint of 9% chelated zinc. Dad, talk a little bit about the P and K, what we accomplished right there.
We're concentrating those nutrients right in the growing zone. Between the rows was 46 pounds per acre. In the row was 156 pounds per acre. So we basically tripled the phosphate numbers.
And that's in the soil.
Look at the potassium number. It went from 284 to 380. But the big kicker on the potassium, the base saturation number went from 2.8 to 4.2. So what we're doing, we're concentrating those nutrients right in the growing zone, right where that plant. And another thing that we often really haven't looked at and talked about a lot is these corn populations. We've really got these corn populations. Corn's being bred to be planted thicker all the time. So we're seeing a lot of root mass growing right in that growing zone, and that's where the nutrients need to be. You know, we're not messing with the whole soil profile. That's not what we do. We're raising the levels in the growing zone and feeding that plant. All right, a pint of zinc, raised that zinc rating about 3 pounds per acre.
In the soil.
In the soil. So we're seeing those changes, and we also, the sulfur didn't come up a great deal, but it did respond. So, that's what we're trying to do.
One thing that's worthy to talk about right here, let's talk about the zinc just for a minute. Most people in our region growing corn with dry fertilizer are broadcasting 350 to 400 pounds of 9-23-30, and they're putting about 3 to 4 pounds of zinc per acre with that and broadcasting it. One thing that I think is really noteworthy here, where they're broadcasting 3 to 4 pounds of zinc per acre, we raised it in the soil 2 pounds
Right.
with a pint of zinc.
Right.
And as you well know, zinc is one thing corn has to have early. And when we can put all those nutrients right in the row, and raising the phosphorus 110 pounds per acre, I think it was, and the potassium rather, we raised both of those 110 pound, 100 pound, and for the most part, Dad, I think you would agree, the agronomists we've worked with and what we have found, the yield potential is set in corn in the first 60 days after emergence.
Well, actually, the first 30, 45 days.
So,
actually, yeah.
But that first 60-day window is very crucial to yield potential set.
And we talk about the potassium. The reason we like 318-18 in that starter band, if you look at a chart and what a corn plant will take up in phosphorus and potassium in the first 25 days, it'll actually take up more potassium than it will phosphorus.
I think it was Iowa State did some research some years ago, and we've got a copy of that. Be glad to show any of you who want to see that. I believe it was 70% of corn's potassium needs are used in the first 60 days after emergence. So that's why in-furrow starters can be very important. Many people, there's been many myths about liquid fertilizer. So to kind of show you what we've so let me revisit this real quick for a second, Dad, before we move on.
Okay.
8-gallon program, Weakley County, Tennessee. I went back and visited that customer after the corn was harvested. That farm averaged 160 bushel. I think he had 175 units of anhydrous under that corn pre-plant. But I asked him 160 bushel, what do you think about that on that farm? And he looked at me and said, that's about all that farm was worth. So we helped him accomplish that goal, and that was just one portion of what his operation. He had some higher yields on other farms. But so we've told you, we've done this a million times. We go and pull a soil sample between the rows in furrow and see what the plant food is doing. As many times we've gone back when the corn is harvested, did the same thing. Soil sample in the middles, soil sample in the furrow. This was the exact same farm after 160 bushel corn had been shelled. Dad, talk about that a little bit.
Phosphorus readings in the middle were 42 pounds per acre. In the row, 78 pounds per acre. Potassium in the middle was 214, and in the row was 256. So we still had a significant amount of plant food still there in that growing zone that hadn't been utilized. And the CEC on this field, this is a pretty good field, was about 11. Organic matter about 2.5%. So it was a fair representative of West Tennessee, I'll put it that way.
And point being, the levels in furrow, even after the corn was harvested, was still better than that between the rows.
Right.
So our programs have always left the soil better than we found it. And this soil sample was pulled in October that year. Corn was shelled, I think, in September that year. So all those nutrients from the debris left behind from the corn stalks and had not been returned back to the soil.
Right.
Hadn't had enough time to make that conversion yet, but probably would have been some higher readings there later in the year possibly. But those are some things we've helped people accomplish. Same customer, the same year, was experimenting with some dry fertilizer variable rate and still trying some starter fertilizer. He did a 4-gallon program of 318-18 with 0.5% sulfur and would have had a half pint of zinc in it. So Dad, talk about that at 4 gallon. What did we raise phosphorus and potassium?
At 4 gallon rate, the phosphorus went from 34 to 64, just about exactly double. Potassium went from 168 to 214. And a 4 gallon rate will give you roughly about 8 pounds of actually orthophosphorus right in that growing zone. I like to see at least 5 gallon, and that's some of the information we had that came out of Illinois, the university work up there, and they say that the first 10 pounds first 10 pounds of phosphorus in a corn program ought to be with the seed. And 5 gallon gives us just exactly 10 pounds if you're using the 318-18 product. We still had a significant increase in levels with the 4 gallon program.
And this is one thing we've seen with different rates, 4 gallon, 5 gallon. We prefer to see 5 to 6 gallon minimum in furrow. Most CECs will allow for that most of the time. And the CEC has a lot to do with it. But for the most part, you have to watch moisture in the soil at planting and soil temperature. Of course, most people are going to try to plant March and April. If possible, they'll plant in March. And sure enough, in April, we want to be planting corn. Most of the time at that point, the soil temperature is 70 degrees or lower. Moisture content should be there. But those are some key factors: CEC, moisture content, and the temperature of the soil are things we really have to watch with any in-furrow fertilizer.
And we have pictures. Here at our office, we have what we call the blooper board. And the best test plots that we ever have are the accidents. The customer that called and said, I forgot to turn the pump on. You might want to come take a picture of this. And he made a round, then turned the pump on, and we see the difference in the corn. And then we had a customer here local one year that made a miscalibration in his planter and put 14 gallon in furrow on 500 acres of corn. And the boys made fun of me. I wore the road out every day going and looking to see what was going to happen.
And it worked that particular year.
It worked in that situation. It was early. Soil types were pretty good, and it worked. And so we've actually seen some things like that happen over the years, and the customer got by with it. And we've actually seen some cases where something like that happened, and we saw a stand reduction happen also. I mean, I've seen that type of thing happen, and that's what we don't want to see happen. We're very careful about that and try to help our customers put the right rate and put the product where it needs to be.
Right.